The call came on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon, just as I was setting my coffee mug down and settling into my worn-out desk chair. The number was unfamiliar, flashing urgently across my phone screen. Something in my gut twisted even before I answered. "Hello, is this Emily Carter?" the voice on the other end asked. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "This is Charles from Liberty National Bank. We're calling regarding your overdue mortgage balance of $523,000. We've sent several notices, but..." The words blurred. Mortgage? $523,000? I didn't own a house. I didn't even own a new car. "You must have the wrong person," I said, my voice shaking despite my efforts to sound calm. "Ma'am, the documents we have show your full name, date of birth, and social security number. You are listed as the primary borrower on the loan taken out 3 years ago." 3 years ago. My heart dropped. That was around the time Jessica, my younger sister, had been talking about wanting a bigger house, one she couldn't afford. I sat frozen, the hum of my computer fan filling the silence. My mind raced, flipping through memories I didn't even know I was storing. Jessica flashing Pinterest boards at family dinners. My parents gushing about how Jessica deserves the best. How we all pitch in for family. But pitch in like this? After hanging up with the bank, promising to look into it when I could barely breathe, I pressed my palms to my eyes hard. My small, one-bedroom apartment around me suddenly felt like it was caving in. There had to be a mistake. There had to be. I rifled through my drawers, pulling out every old document I had, praying I would find some clue that proved it wasn't me. But deep down, the icy grip of betrayal had already begun to wrap around my ribs. Because if it wasn't a mistake, there was only one explanation. I thought about how my parents always called me the responsible one. The one who didn't need help, who wouldn't make a fuss. Meanwhile, Jessica flitted from one bad decision to another, cushioned by Mom's whispered excuses and Dad's tired sighs. It had always been that way. I was the background character in my own family, useful, dependable, invisible. I pressed my forehead against the cool wood of my desk. Tears burned the back of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about being treated like my future, my life, was something they could casually sign away without even a warning. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my mother. "Hey, sweetheart. Hope you're having a good week. Family dinner Sunday." Family dinner. Like everything was normal. Like my name wasn't tied to $500,000 of debt I didn't sign for. The taste in my mouth turned bitter. I typed back, sure, and hit send. Because before anything else, before accusations or screaming matches, I needed to know the whole truth. And when I found it, I would decide exactly how loud or how silent my response would be. And something deep inside me promised, this time I wouldn't stay invisible. The next morning, after a sleepless night of staring at the cracks in my ceiling, I sat hunched over the kitchen table, a steaming cup of untouched coffee beside me. My laptop was open, tabs multiplying like weeds, mortgage fraud, forged signatures, legal advice blogs, warning signs of identity theft. But none of it prepared me for what I was about to see. I called the bank again, requesting a copy of the mortgage documents. The woman on the line was polite, almost mechanical, as she emailed them over within minutes. When the PDF opened, my breath caught in my throat. There it was, page after page, filled with my name, my information, and my signature, except it wasn't mine. It looked close enough that someone who didn't know better might not notice. But I knew every curve of my real signature, every little tremble in my hand. This one was too perfect, too rehearsed. It felt like staring into a cracked mirror. I zoomed in, studying the slanted loops, the heavy tail on the Y, and Emily, the way Carter was spelled just a little too neatly. My hands started to tremble. How could they do this? How could my own parents? The floor seemed to shift under me. I grabbed the edge of the table, grounding myself. I kept flipping through the pages, heart pounding harder with every line. Every loan term, every initial scribbled on the margins, every signature. It was like watching someone rob me in slow motion. And the worst part was, they hadn't even thought I deserved to be warned. I thought about every family holiday where Jessica was treated like royalty and I was expected to smile and clap from the sidelines. Every time I picked up the check because, "You're doing better right now, sweetheart." Doing better until now. The walls of my small kitchen seemed to close in tighter. I closed my eyes, letting the storm churn inside me. No tears. Not yet. Only a growing, hollow ache. The betrayal wasn't loud. It didn't come with screaming or slammed doors. It was quiet, sharp, like a scalpel sliding under the skin. I started gathering every scrap of paper that tied me to them financially. Old bank statements, credit reports, even birthday cards where they joked about the responsible daughter. Evidence. I didn't know exactly what I would do with it yet, but I knew I needed to protect myself. As the hours crawled by, memories flashed behind my eyes like a cruel movie reel. Jessica showing off her new car after flunking out of college. Mom telling me, "You're the strong one, Emmy. Jess needs a little extra." Dad patting my head like a dog when I graduated without anyone showing up to the ceremony. They had always expected me to carry the weight, to be the net when Jessica fell. This time, they hadn't even bothered to ask. They just signed my future away, assuming I would never fight back. By evening, a neat pile of documents sat on the kitchen table, a silent promise to myself. The girl who once bent over backwards to be the good daughter was gone. Now, I wasn't sure exactly who I was becoming, but I knew one thing. I wouldn't stay silent forever. Sunday came too fast. I stood in front of my parents' house, the house where I grew up, staring at the door like it was the entrance to a courtroom. A part of me wanted to turn around, to pretend none of this had happened, to stay the invisible daughter who didn't cause trouble. But another part, the part they didn't know they'd created, steeled my spine. I knocked once, twice. The door swung open, and there was my mother, beaming like everything was perfect. "Emmy, so glad you could make it, sweetheart." "Sweetheart." I stepped inside. The familiar smell of pot roast and lemon cleaner hit me all at once, dragging me back to 100 childhood memories. Only now they felt hollow. Dad was in the living room, half watching a football game, beer balanced on the armrest. Jessica sat curled up on the couch, scrolling on her phone, expensive purse tossed carelessly beside her. None of them even glanced at me properly. I took a seat quietly, my heart pounding so loud it felt like the walls should shake. I waited, let them get comfortable, let them reveal themselves. Dinner was served like any other Sunday. Laughter, chatter, Jessica complaining about how expensive landscaping was for her stupid big yard. Dad grunting about the game. Mom doting on Jessica like she hung the moon. Finally, after the plates were cleared, I spoke. "Hey, I have a question," I said, my voice low but steady. 3 sets of eyes turned toward me, mildly curious, like I was about to ask if they'd seen my missing scarf. "Does anyone know anything about a mortgage with my name on it?" Silence. A full, thick silence that made the ticking of the wall clock deafening. Jessica was the first to react. She shifted, pulling her sleeves down nervously. Mom's smile faltered. Dad coughed into his hand. I kept my expression calm, almost blank. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just waited. Mom was the first to break. "Honey, listen," she started, reaching across the table like we were discussing the weather. "It's not a big deal. It's family. Jessica just needed a little help qualifying for her loan. That's all. It's not like you're actually paying anything." "Not a big deal." Jessica chimed in, voice defensive. "You have good credit, Em." "I don't. It's not fair that you wouldn't help. It's just paperwork." Just paperwork. I leaned back in my chair, letting the words settle around me like ash. They didn't even think it was wrong. They had convinced themselves it was normal, that I was the bad guy for being upset. I nodded slowly, keeping my face carefully neutral. "Thanks for explaining," I said quietly. Jessica shrugged, already reaching for her phone again, as if the matter was closed. Mom beamed like she had soothed a silly little tantrum. Dad turned back to the game. None of them saw the storm brewing behind my calm eyes. They thought the old Emily was still sitting there. They didn't realize yet that the real storm would hit when they least expected it, and it would be silent until it wasn't. The drive home was a blur. Streetlights streaked across the windshield, but I barely saw them. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. The faint hum of the tires on the pavement, the only sound in the car. Inside, though, it was anything but quiet. Their words spun around in my head like a cruel carousel. It's just paperwork. It's not a big deal. Family helps family. I thought about every sacrifice I had made. Every time I swallowed disappointment to keep the peace. Every time I picked up Jessica's mess behind the scenes. And for what? So they could handcuff me to a $523,000 debt without even a phone call? I pulled into my driveway and sat there, staring at the darkened outline of my small house. For a long time, I didn't move. I let the betrayal settle deeper into my bones, burning a hole I knew would never fully heal. But I also realized something else. This was the moment they had finally freed me, not by choice, not by apology, but by stripping away every last illusion I had clung to about who they were, about what family meant. There was nothing left to protect anymore. No love to cling to, hoping it would fix itself. They had drawn the line. Now I would decide what side I stood on. I went inside, changed into my oldest sweatshirt, and opened my laptop again. This time I didn't search for advice. I searched for answers. Solutions. Lawyers who specialized in mortgage fraud. Articles about suing family members. Steps to remove your name from a fraudulent loan. The world felt colder, sharper. But for the first time in a long time, I felt awake. I stayed up late into the night, reading, taking notes, mapping out everything. If they had expected me to roll over and cry about it, they didn't know me at all. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw fits or demand apologies that would never come. I was going to be smarter, quieter, deadlier. I thought about every moment they had made me feel small. Mom brushing off my college acceptance with a distracted, "That's nice, honey." Dad laughing when I told him about the promotion I earned without anyone's help, Jessica sneering, "Not everyone's perfect like you." I wasn't perfect. I had just been surviving, carrying the weight they tossed aside without a second thought. And now I would carry my own weight, and I would watch them crumble under the one they tried to pin on me. As the clock struck 2 a.m., I closed the laptop and sat back, exhaustion washing over me. But it wasn't the hopeless exhaustion I'd felt before. This time, it was the heavy calm of someone who had made a decision. I would free myself. I would protect my future. And when they realized what I had done, it would already be too late. Some lessons cost nothing. Some lessons cost everything. They were about to learn the difference. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. It was strange how betrayal, once fully realized, could sharpen the mind instead of breaking it. I called out of work, telling my boss I needed a personal day. She didn't ask questions. I think she heard something different in my voice, a quiet finality that didn't invite small talk. My first stop was a local coffee shop not far from downtown. It was quiet, tucked between a florist and a bookstore. The kind of place where secrets could be discussed without anyone caring enough to listen. I sat at a corner table, nursing a bitter black coffee, waiting for my appointment. At exactly 9 a.m., he arrived. Mr. Warner, a real estate attorney recommended by a friend, someone known for being discreet and ruthless when necessary. He was older, sharp-eyed, with the no-nonsense energy of someone who had seen too many ugly family battles to be fazed by one more. I handed him the documents I had gathered, the mortgage papers with my name plastered across them, the letters from the bank demanding payments, my credit report showing the hit my score had taken. Mr. Warner flipped through the stack methodically, eyebrows drawing together slightly. When he finished, he set the papers down and looked at me steadily. "You understand what this means, right?" he asked. I nodded. They committed fraud. Identity theft, technically. It's criminal. Hearing those words out loud felt like a punch and a bomb all at once. Fraud. Identity theft. Not just family drama. Not just a misunderstanding. Crimes. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just leaned in and asked the only question that mattered. How do I fix it? Over the next 2 hours, Mr. Warner laid out the plan. File a police report. Notify the bank in writing, officially disputing the loan. Begin proceedings to have my name legally removed. Sue, if necessary, for damages. It wouldn't be fast. It wouldn't be easy. And it would absolutely destroy whatever fragile ties remained with my family. but it would also save my future. As I listened, taking notes carefully, I realized something important. I wasn't doing this to them. I was doing this for me. They had made their choices. I was just choosing differently now. When the meeting ended, Mr. Warner shook my hand firmly. "You're doing the right thing, Emily," he said. "Don't let guilt make you weak." I tucked his card into my wallet and left the cafe, stepping into the bright, unforgiving sunlight. Outside, life moved on. People laughed, cars honked, a mother scolded her child lovingly on the sidewalk. I realized, standing there, that my life could move on too. Without them. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be mine. And for the first time, that was enough. The police station smelled faintly of old coffee and something metallic, like worn-out filing cabinets. I stood at the counter, feeling oddly detached as I explained to the officer that I needed to file a report for identity theft. When he asked for the details, I handed over the thick file Mr. Warner had helped me compile: documents, timelines, copies of my ID, the fraudulent loan papers. As the officer flipped through them, I caught a flicker of something across his face. Recognition, disbelief, maybe even a small flash of anger on my behalf. "You sure you want to move forward with this?" he asked quietly, glancing up at me. "If I don't," I said evenly, "they'll keep taking from me." He nodded, stamped the papers, and handed me a copy of the report. It was official now. From there, the dominoes began to fall faster than I had even dared hope. I mailed the certified letter to the bank that same afternoon, attaching the police report and a formal dispute notice. I remember standing at the post office counter, the pen trembling slightly in my hand as I signed the last form. Not from fear, from the weight of finality. There would be no taking this back. The next few days passed in a tense, eerie silence. I didn't call my parents. I didn't call Jessica. I didn't warn them. Instead, I waited. 3 days later, my mother showed up unannounced at my doorstep. I watched her from the window before opening the door. She looked disheveled, furious, and beneath it all, terrified. When I finally opened it, I didn't invite her inside. She launched into it without even a greeting. "How dare you involve the police? Do you know what you've done to this family?" I listened quietly, letting her words bounce off me like rubber bullets. "I trusted you to be understanding," she hissed. "Jessica needed help. Family sticks together." I tilted my head slightly, studying her. "No," I said softly. "Family asks. They don't steal." Her face reddened, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "You've ruined everything," she cried. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Instead, I kept my voice level, my words like knives wrapped in velvet. "I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped cleaning up your messes." And then, without another word, I closed the door. It was the most powerful sound I had ever made, that soft click as the latch caught. I stood there on the other side, heart pounding, but not from regret. From release. Later that night, Jessica tried calling me. 12 missed calls. A string of desperate, angry voicemails. I deleted them without listening. The bank responded within a week. They suspended the loan, pending investigation, and issued a formal apology for their role in the ordeal. The legal process would still drag on for months, but I had taken the first steps. The right steps. And my family? Their world, built on lies and entitlement, was finally starting to crack. I didn't have to scream. I didn't have to fight. All I had to do was stand still while the truth did its work. And somehow that was so much sweeter. In the weeks that followed, the silence grew thick around me. No more surprise visits. No more frantic calls. No more guilt-drenched texts from relatives telling me to just forgive and forget. It was as if I had been erased from the family group chat, from holiday plans, from their carefully curated image of unity. At first, the loneliness was suffocating. Even when the betrayal cuts deep, there's a part of you, the child still craving approval, that aches when the ties finally snap. But slowly, something else took root inside me. Peace. Real peace. I found myself doing things I had neglected for years. I spent Saturdays wandering through farmers markets, buying sunflowers for my kitchen table. I started hiking local trails, breathing in the cool morning air and feeling the earth steady beneath my feet. I enrolled in a pottery class on a whim, my hands clumsy, but my spirit somehow lighter each time I shaped something new from the raw clay. There was something beautiful about rebuilding. Not loudly, not for show, but quietly, piece by fragile piece. The legal process continued in the background. I responded to emails from Mr. Warner, signed affidavits, collected updates about the loan's slow unwinding. Each time I saw an official letter with my name on it, Emily Parker, it reminded me, this name is mine. This life is mine. Not a gift from my parents. Not an obligation to my sister. Mine. The strangest part was realizing that, deep down, I didn't want revenge the way I once thought I would. I didn't want to see Jessica lose everything. I didn't want my parents dragged through public shame. I just wanted distance. Freedom. A chance to live without carrying the invisible weight of debts I never agreed to bear. One evening, a few months after it all began, I sat on my small apartment balcony with a cup of tea, watching the city lights flicker to life. I thought about the girl I had been, the one who kept saying yes out of fear, who kept absorbing every blow like it was her duty. And I thought about the woman I was becoming, quiet, steady, unbreakable in a way no shouting match could ever achieve. A soft breeze lifted the edge of the old throw blanket wrapped around my shoulders. I smiled into the darkness and whispered the words I had waited a lifetime to believe. I owe them nothing. Not anger, not explanations, not even forgiveness on their timeline. Just silence. And in that silence, I finally found myself. The final confrontation wasn't loud. It wasn't a screaming match or a tearful apology. It wasn't anything dramatic at all. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon, almost a year after everything had started. I had just come back from a pottery fair, arms full of handmade mugs and bowls, when I saw them, my parents and Jessica, standing awkwardly outside my apartment building. They looked smaller somehow. Jessica's once perfect hair was unkempt, her eyes darting around nervously. My mother clutched her purse so tightly that her knuckles were white. And my father, the man who once bellowed that family was about loyalty, couldn't even meet my gaze. They were losing everything. The bank's investigation had triggered a cascade of consequences. Jessica's loan had defaulted. The house she was so proud of was foreclosed. And with it, their carefully built illusion of control crumbled. I paused on the sidewalk, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows around us. They must have seen the change in me, because for the first time in my life, they didn't bark orders or demand explanations. They pleaded. "Emily," my mother began, voice trembling. "We made a mistake, but we're still family." Jessica stepped forward, her voice thin and desperate. "I need your help, just for a little while. Please don't turn your back on us." There was no anger inside me anymore. No burning need to lash out or make them suffer. Just a deep, calm certainty. I set down my bags slowly and stood up straight. I looked at each of them, really looked, at their faces full of fear, regret, and the realization that I no longer belonged to them. They hadn't come because they loved me. They had come because they needed something from me again. And this time, there would be nothing to take. "I hope," I said, my voice steady and clear, "that one day you understand what real family means. But it's not something you can steal, or fake, or demand when it's convenient." I picked up my bags again, feeling the weight of them, solid and real in my hands. "And as for me," I added quietly, "I'm finally free, and I'm not coming back." Their faces crumpled, my mother's mouth opening in protest, Jessica's eyes welling with tears. But I didn't wait to hear what they said next. I turned, walked past them, and never looked back. As I reached the stairs to my apartment, I paused for just a moment, the afternoon breeze ruffling my hair. I whispered, not to them, but to myself, "Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say." And with that, I climbed the stairs, step by step, leaving behind everything that had once broken me, and ahead of me, a life that was finally beautifully mine.